The movie is a powerful documentary titled When We Speak, which interweaves the stories of three remarkable women who chose to become whistleblowers, sacrificing their personal and professional stability to expose significant institutional wrongdoing. The film establishes a core theme. While society encourages women to have a voice, those who speak out against powerful entrenched systems are routinely punished. The first story belongs to Katharine Gun, a former British intelligence employee working at GCHQ, Government Communications Headquarters. In early 2003, she was performing her routine duty of monitoring intercepted communications when she encountered an explosive internal memo from the U.S. National Security Agency, NSA. The memo requested that GCHQ assist the U.S. in spying on the 6 swing nations on the UN Security Council: Angola, Bulgaria, Chile, Cameroon, Guinea, and Pakistan. The goal was to collect a whole gamut of information to give policymakers an edge in obtaining a UN resolution that would authorize the invasion of Iraq. Katharine was shocked, realizing this was a covert plan to subvert international diplomacy, potentially through blackmail or bribery, to legitimize a war she was personally convinced was illegal and immoral. Feeling her loyalty lay with the British public and preventing an illegal war that intelligence reports suggested would increase the risk of terrorism, she printed the memo and, after agonizing over the risk, leaked it to a contact. When the memo was published on the front page of The Observer, Katharine was terrified but felt a sense of relief for unburdening herself. She quickly confessed to her manager, leading to her arrest and charge under the Official Secrets Act, a stark illustration of the personal fallout of challenging state power. The second narrative focuses on Helen Evans, the former global head of safeguarding at the international aid organization Oxfam. Her experience began with a trip to Haiti following the devastating earthquake, where she first encountered allegations of sexual exploitation and abuse by aid workers who were taking advantage of vulnerable, destitute female survivors desperate for money and aid. This isolated incident quickly evolved into a shocking realization when Helen became the head of safeguarding in 2012 and discovered the problem was not an isolated event but systemic sexual exploitation and abuse across numerous country programs. She repeatedly raised concerns about the scale of the crisis, including coercion, rape, and the targeting of vulnerable women, and begged the organization's leadership for more resources and a serious commitment to addressing the issue. To her dismay, she was consistently met with resistance, a lack of resources, and institutional apathy. The final turning point came when a survey revealed that as many as 1 in 10 workers in some programs had witnessed or experienced sexual exploitation or abuse, yet her scheduled presentation to the leadership team was abruptly cancelled. Feeling completely ignored and realizing she had failed the victims she was trying to protect, Helen resigned in 2015. Although she took her concerns to the Charity Commission and other external bodies, they were also dismissed. It wasn't until a journalist's exposé in 2018 brought the Oxfam scandal to global attention that Helen was validated, forcing her to make the difficult decision to speak publicly, knowing it could harm the charity's fundraising and consequently those in need of aid. The film then features actress Rose McGowan, a figurehead of the MeToo movement, who bravely spoke out about the sexual assault she experienced at the hands of powerful Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein. Rose recounts the psychological and physical strain of knowing she was being harassed, hacked, and surveilled by Weinstein's team as she worked with journalists to get the story published. She describes the intense hunt for a copy of a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, she feared she had signed, which would legally silence her. Her journey highlights the extraordinary courage required to challenge deep-seated patriarchal and institutional power in Hollywood, a culture rooted in a boys' club mentality that protected abusers. The film underscores the sense of being open season and fair game for the media and the relentless degrading questioning she faced once her story was public. In connecting the three experiences, the documentary explores the profound psychological and personal cost of whistleblowing, which includes intense anxiety, public backlash, career damage, and the strain placed on family life, including for both Katharine and Helen. The film ultimately champions the crucial role of whistleblowers as heroes who bring essential information to light, forcing society to confront abuses of power, and underscores the unique challenges women face, including the omnipresent threat to their personal safety when their voices genuinely challenge the machinery of the state and patriarchy. The documentary, When We Speak, is a composite portrait of three women who became whistleblowers, exploring their motivation, the immense personal sacrifice, and the resulting societal impact of their courage in speaking truth to power. The film interweaves the narratives of British intelligence employee Katharine Gun, Oxfam aid worker Helen Evans, and Hollywood actress Rose McGowan, demonstrating a shared experience of trauma, isolation, and eventual, albeit painful, vindication. Katharine Gun's story details the dramatic fallout after she leaked a top-secret NSA memo to the Observer newspaper in 2003. The memo exposed a joint US-UK plan to spy on UN Security Council members to force a resolution authorizing the invasion of Iraq. Katharine describes the intense shock and panic of seeing the email published and her immediate decision to confess to GCHQ, leading to her arrest and a night in a police cell, a profoundly ironic experience given her husband was a failed asylum seeker. While out on bail and subsequently dismissed for gross misconduct, Katharine endured a period of isolation and limbo, watching in despair as the Iraq War began, feeling like a huge failure despite her efforts. The legal ordeal culminated in a dramatic court appearance where the prosecution unexpectedly offered insufficient evidence for a realistic prospect of conviction, leading to the charges being dropped. Katharine felt relief but also disappointment as the sudden end of the case meant she missed the opportunity to argue the defense of necessity that her actions were justified to prevent an illegal war and publicly expose the government's deceit. She discusses the intense media circus and her subsequent need to escape the spotlight to recover her sense of normalcy. Helen Evans' narrative continues, detailing the profound emotional cost of exposing systemic sexual exploitation and abuse within Oxfam. After resigning due to the organization's repeated failure to dedicate adequate resources to the problem, Helen struggled with whether to go public. She wrestled with the fear that speaking out would reduce donations and harm the very people the charity was meant to serve. Ultimately feeling a responsibility to the survivors who had confided in her, she chose to speak out to a journalist. Following the explosive news report, Helen's life became a living nightmare. She experienced immediate public backlash and retaliation in her hometown of Oxford, the location of Oxfam's headquarters. She describes being spat at in the street and having her son witness people angrily confront her, leading him to ask why people were being bullies. The constant sense of being on edge and the resulting panic attacks forced her to make the most awful decision to move her family away from their home. She tearfully reveals that the toll of the experience eventually led to the separation from her supportive husband, illustrating the profound and lasting relational damage of whistleblowing. However, Helen eventually finds purpose and healing, moving into a leadership role at an autism charity, and realizing her own autism diagnosis provided her with a new insight, that she spoke up because she literally had no choice. She concludes that despite the high price, she would do it again. Rose McGowan shares the harrowing aftermath of her public accusations against Harvey Weinstein, noting the daily assault of navigating a new reality filled with trauma. She describes facing resistance even from those she expected to be allies, explaining that anyone who upsets the status quo upsets, period. Rose's sense of mission is clear, viewing herself as someone who lays on barbed wire so others can walk in your back towards a better place. For her, the ultimate target was not just Weinstein but the entire complicity machine that protected him. Her story culminates with Weinstein's eventual conviction and sentencing, a moment Rose feels immense pride over, recognizing that she helped set up the dominoes for the global MeToo movement. She embraces her identity as a strange creature in the firmament of the world and a fighter who was made for this, while also acknowledging the family alienation and financial devastation that resulted from her choice. The documentary concludes by reflecting on the shared experiences of isolation, the toll on mental health including PTSD, and the lack of societal infrastructure to protect whistleblowers. Expert commentary emphasizes that these women were driven by an unwavering sense of integrity and justice, not choice or personal gain. The film asserts that the courage of Katharine, Helen, and Rose has been historically validated, demonstrating that they did the right thing and their actions have led to meaningful change, such as the UK's Shilkut inquiry on the Iraq War and significant reforms in the aid sector. They are celebrated as heroes essential for a healthy democracy whose voices must be recognized and protected. The three intertwining narratives of When We Speak offer a searing and necessary conclusion. Whistleblowing, especially for women, is an act of profound and costly heroism. Katharine Gun, Helen Evans, and Rose McGowan each spoke out against immense power, state security, international aid institutions, and Hollywood's elite, driven not by choice but by an unyielding moral imperative to prevent a greater wrong. The film powerfully documents the immediate and long-term retaliation each woman faced, a common thread that underscores society's failure to protect those who act in the public interest. Katharine's acquittal didn't erase the job loss, the isolation, or the anguish of watching an illegal war begin. Helen's truth-telling led to her public vilification, the breakdown of her marriage, and the trauma of moving her family, a shocking price for exposing systemic sexual abuse. Rose's courage in igniting the MeToo movement came with the cost of being hacked, harassed, and alienated. Despite the immense personal sacrifices, each woman finds a sense of purpose and ultimately a measure of vindication. Their stories serve as a vital reminder that while the whistleblower often pays a devastating price, their actions are essential for accountability, democracy, and a more just society. They are not merely brave, they are the necessary catalysts for change. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.